Brilliant. So welcome again to everybody to Conversations of Impact, part 4. And great to see so many returning faces again at the session. So my name is Michaela Donegan. A lot of you I know on the call today, Social Innovation and Impact Manager here at Social Impact Ireland. And my colleagues and teammates are working away in the background to make all this happen here today. So delighted that you can join us, and delighted that you can all join us here today for the lunchtime chat. And thank you to all our live listeners that are here, and we also welcome all the listeners that are listening to us from the recording that will go on our website. So as always, feel free to eat away and enjoy a nice cuppa, as it is as lunchtime, and good that I've seen a few people with cups in their hands, so that's really good to see. So today we're going to be discussing impactful people within the social enterprise space. We want to celebrate all those wonderful people behind the social enterprise scenes who create that positive impact, the staff, the volunteers, those that advocate on behalf of social enterprises and push on policy side. We want to highlight the positive impact of all these people that they make in their workplaces. And I'm delighted to let you know that we have 4 such impactful people on the panel here with us today. And brilliant to see them all here. So when setting up a social enterprise, having staff is always likely to be just a dream, really. Usually it's one person, and if you're lucky, you might have somebody else helping out as well. So you end up, I suppose, working on all aspects of the business, like delivering the activities, the sales, the marketing, IT, bookkeeping, finances. I can go on and on, operations. There's so many parts to the social enterprise. But I suppose in order for that to grow, the social enterprise needs to continue to operate when you're away for the day, if you're on holidays or sick. And that's where everybody else comes into play. So the feeling, I suppose, of making that difference in our career and jobs is becoming rapidly more important for employees. And the next generation are looking for more. They're not only, I suppose, looking for the opportunities to engage, but they're also looking to work for companies they know are doing the right thing and making that difference. So can social enterprise space provide these needs? Are staff more motivated because they work in social enterprises? And we hope to address some of those issues here today. Feel free to tweet us using the hashtag Conversations of Impact, or make a comment in our chat. So in a few minutes, I'm going to introduce you to our 4 impactful panelists. So we have Michelle Liccardi, the Social Innovator and Social Enterprise Manager with Dublin South City Partnership. We've Paul Goodwin, Assistant Manager with Gateway to Education Limerick. We have Jamie Murray, a member of the Ability Board, and Evelyn Pepperell, Office Manager and Programmes Communication Officer with our good selves here at Social Impact Ireland. So lovely to see you all here today. And I suppose, as usual, following on from those conversations, we're going to have a 10-minute questions and answer session. So feel free to pop in any questions you may have for our panelists into the Zoom chat, and as we go along, or tweet us, and you can use the hashtag Conversations of Impact. We'll get to all those questions later on in the session. So I suppose we're interested to find out about the backgrounds of our 4 panelists here today and what they would like to see happen in the social enterprise space, the challenges they see, and any recommendations they may have for us. So welcome to Paul, Jamie, Michelle, and Evelyn, and thank you so much for joining us here today. We appreciate you using your lunchtime to chat with us. So I might ask you all individually, maybe just to introduce yourselves to everybody on the call before we delve into more questions. So whoever would like to go first, maybe Evelyn, would you like to start off the introductions?
Sure, of course. So hi, I'm Evelyn Pepperell, and I work with the Social Impact team now for 18 months. And I'm the office manager here, and I help coordinate the online events. And it's a lovely space to be in with an amazing team.
Lovely. Thanks, Evelyn. Jamie, would you like to follow there?
Hi, I'm Jamie. I'm a part of the Ability Board, a group for the people with different ability who work in companies.
Great. Thanks, Jamie. Who else I'll see on my screen there. So Michelle, you might introduce yourself.
Thanks, Michaela. So I recognise a few familiar faces on the call. I know you've introduced that I'm from Dublin South City Partnership. So it's a local development company and we'd work with social enterprises on the ground. So often it's community groups that are looking to set up a social enterprise, or we'd have a lot of social entrepreneurs that might come in and say, we have an idea, what can we do? How can you support us? So I know that, look, that's mainly what I'm going to be trying to talk about today, was that any of the social enterprises and the work that we're doing.
Brilliant, Michelle. Look forward to that. And Paul, you might introduce yourself as well. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Paul Goodwin from Limerick here, working with Gateway to Education Limerick. I've been here, I think, like somewhere between 1.5 to 2 years now. This will be my first kind of experience working in this kind of sector as well. It's been a fantastic experience, really rewarding and learning a lot. But it's still very new to me as well. Some of you might be more experienced, and you know, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Great, delighted to have you. Delighted you could join us, Paul. So I might actually come to you first in relation to just a few questions. So I suppose, how did you come to work in the social enterprise space initially, Paul?
Well, apologies as well. The phone has gone off here, so I'll hang it up if it rings, but it's been going off.
You're fine. You're fine.
If you hear a loud ringing, that's what it is. So yeah, I suppose it's been a kind of a career change for me in the last 2 years or so. You know, I went to college originally, studied something completely different, more science-based. Never really ended up getting a foothold in that as a career. But wasn't really working in anything I was particularly passionate about, you know. But I'd started, like, yeah. I always had the feeling I wanted to be doing something like this, you know. So I started volunteering. I became a Childline volunteer. So I've done that for 3 years, and it really opened up the mindset of like getting into this kind of thing, and is it possible, and you know, how do you get into this kind of work? So I ended up, yeah, then from there, really enjoying it, learning a lot, going on to study youth and community work, you know, in a night course, that kind of thing, while working. And then, you know, the pandemic came along, and unfortunately was made redundant in the job I had. I say that, I would have said that then, but looking back now, that's the opposite. It was actually very fortunate because I wasn't very invested where I was working, and ended up being lucky enough to get the opportunity to come here and start working. So, and here I am. That's why I ended up here.
Yeah, it's funny how our lives evolve, isn't it?
Yeah.
I suppose, what do you enjoy most, Paul, about working in the social enterprise, and how is it different, I suppose, to previous working positions that you mentioned?
Yeah, it's the buy-in, really, I suppose, is it. Like for me, like I can see, you know, I feel the work is important, and you can see the results and effects it has really tangibly on people, you know, and like you go home feeling like you've achieved and made a difference during the day, and that's it. I'm bought into it. I care, you know, and like it's nice to be able to care about what you're doing. Sorry, there's the phone now. I'm just someone's gonna be really angry at me for hanging up the phone on them. But where was I? I was saying, yeah, it's a feeling you're bought into it, you know, and I didn't have that before, you know. It didn't feel like real problems, you know. Okay. You know, and I suppose I like what I like about it as well is this may be a bad thing to some people, but I like how varied the day can be. You know, that, I mean, that can be considered a bad thing, but I do sometimes come in and you don't know what the day will throw at you, and there's many different aspects to the work, and that can be exciting and challenging, you know, that you may not expect when you go in, that today you're gonna have to deal with this, and then you're there, it is. I enjoy that part too, you know.
Yeah, lots of multitasking.
Yeah, kind of, you know, where we are, we could be doing like working on a charity shop, like carrying bags of books around, or applying for funding, or, you know, mentoring people on, like, you know, what they hope to do with their like their future, going into education or looking for work, that kind of stuff. It's all very varied, and I enjoy that a lot, you know.
Yeah. I suppose just working with, and by listening to you, it sounds that it does. Like, does working at Limerick Gateway to Education align with your values?
Yeah, it does. That's a big part of it, you know.
Yeah.
I've always kind of interest in education, you know, and learning new things. Like always had, like I'm always seeking out new things personally to learn and different interests, you know. And I believe that's a uh, good outlook on things. You know, keeps your brain healthy and keeps you
Yeah.
keeps you going. And but also like the big part, like the real mission of what we have is that like everyone should have a equal opportunity to get education and employment, and that's what we fight for, you know. And I certainly believe in that vision, you know.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm still here. That's why I want to keep working at this, you know, through our different projects.
Yeah.
That's what we hope to achieve, you know, that
Yeah.
no matter the background, you don't get to choose your background, you know, but you should still have a fair shot at, you know, at finding
Yeah.
work and finding your way, you know.
Absolutely. Yes, but it keeps that motivation continuing.
Yeah.
Yeah, are there any changes or recommendations that you or Gateway to Education in Limerick would like to see happening in the social enterprise space?
I suppose, yeah, I was thinking about this, and the main thing that came to mind was something was about like support and assistance for particularly startups, you know.
Okay.
You know, you can go to college and study all this kind of stuff and how to do social work, you know, great, but sometimes these social enterprises are set up by just a regular everyday person who has an idea, you know. And you know, me being fairly new to it, I've had a lot of learning to do, you know. And you know, yeah, it's someone who's coming from a background having no background in this, you know, how to engage in the sector, you know, things like how to look for funding, how to speak the right language, how to network, all that kind of stuff. So it'd be great if there was, well, there already is supports and assistances, but I think the more the better, for especially for those kind of people, you know.
Yeah. So if anybody out there has any questions for Paul, please pop them into the Zoom chat now or tweet us using the hashtag Conversations of Impact. Jamie, I might actually chat with you next, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Did you want to tell us anything more about yourself, Jamie, in relation to ability awareness?
Like I'm a proud member of the Ability Board, which is a group who want to give people with different ability an equal chance in companies an interview, like to give them a chance to look for jobs instead of putting up barriers.
Yeah, and I suppose at the moment you're doing some work on a website as well, aren't you?
Like we're doing like for social impact, we're looking at the accessibility of the website to see if it's accessibility friendly with people with different abilities. So
that's great.
Make it into easy to read for them. So
yeah. So it makes it more accessible for everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. What were you doing, Jamie, before the Ability Board?
I wasn't too happy before I did the Ability Board. In school, like there were a lot in my class, and like it was very hard and in concentrate on maths, so I need a bit of more support in maths and what I do. So I wasn't as happy. So I didn't want to get up for school, and my mum said that really a big change in me the last years since I went to DOEX and did the Ability Board. And
I think you were saying before that life is too short for maths.
Yeah, and so what you need maths for? Fair enough, you need maths for things, but like it could be too short too for maths.
Yeah, absolutely. And did you completed a level 3 as well, didn't you?
Yeah, in MTU and in advanced fights social. I don't try in South Africa under the advanced group South Africa courts and the normal Africa courts. So like that I really love doing it.
Do you? Yeah. And
So,
you
like,
got.
So
Did
I
you-
got a job out of the ability board.
Yeah, yeah. And you got was that part of the Goshka Award as well?
No, a part of the gotcha we had to do volunteering.
Oh, okay.
I'm volunteering a charity shop. And we had to do a skill and then show make. I mean yoga.
Oh,
So-
right, yoga, yeah, yeah. And do you want to tell you? I know that you won an award there recently with the Ability Board.
Yeah, we won the Star Award for the Ability Board. We were picked out of Learning for Living Star Award. It was the biggest award worldwide.
Yeah, and was that was I suppose was there mention there about you know, making a difference and making sure that there's equality for everybody in that.
Yeah, like said that's barriers in work for people with disability, but I want to change because each person, even with no disability, had the right for a job, like, but some companies still don't know, like, would they be able to do some of the tasks or not. Like,
Okay.
not down the barriers. That way we want it on the interview panel too.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. And I suppose just would there be anything that you'd like to see happening in the social enterprise space, Jamie?
I'd say get more people jobs with different ability, give them a chance and give them an interview.
Yeah.
They had like be equal, give them a fair chance.
Like, would you see social enterprises as helping the world to be?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It could give them a big chance and give them a handout to not down some of the barriers that people facing.
Yeah. I suppose kind of making the world more
inclusive.
Absolutely, Jamie, you have the right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Like everyone should be inclusive.
Yeah.
In the world.
Yeah. So thanks, Jamie. Very powerful words. And if anybody on the call has any questions for Jamie, please pop them in the Zoom chat now, or you can tweet us again using the hashtag Conversations of Impact.
Thank you.
Thanks a million, Jamie. We'll talk to you again soon in a few minutes. Michelle, I might come to you next, if that's okay.
No problem.
Great. So I suppose just since the formation of the Social Enterprise Dublin, what kind of insights can you share with us today in relation to the impactful people, I suppose, working in the social enterprise space?
So originally I'd been thinking about this, and I was thinking of all the people we'd probably know nationally and internationally that have been since 2014 and onwards in the first Foróige, highlighting what social enterprise is and pushing for policy. But actually, from the Get Social Dublin campaign and the Social Enterprise Dublin, through a number of local development companies, we had come together to try to share the learning and knowledge, because we realised we're doing very similar jobs across Dublin. And we also realised that there's a certain amount of clustering in the social enterprises, that if I'm geographically limited in Dublin 4, 6, 8, 12, but I've got somebody working with social mission, but there's somebody somewhere else, that if I have access and can help them to network by saying, look, sure, Northside Partnership are working with them, you could work on some projects together, or they're putting in for this fund, or they've gotten this big contract, but they won't be able to put in for it. So that's originally, it came out of, we started with training and mentoring, trying to look at how we could share all of that knowledge and get more return for the budgets that we had across Dublin. And then when the Arise campaign, the funding came out, what we had done is talk to a number of social enterprises to say, well, what would you want? Because it's not about promoting the local development companies. It's about what the social enterprises. And so Miriam and Sinead, I can see, are on this call that they, for example, we have a podcast. One is going to be uploaded every week until the end of June.
Brilliant.
And we invited them to Near FM, which are a social enterprise themselves, the studios, and asked them, because what we're aware is that the census is coming this year. And there's a lot of conversations going on. What is a social enterprise? What isn't a social enterprise across the country? Because, you know, even with the definition, it's more to do with, we get every day, I get somebody saying to me, but Michelle, are these officially? And sometimes it's very difficult for me. We've used a number of accountants, a number of solicitors, and often it's conflicting. So from the Get Social Dublin and the Social Enterprise Dublin side, what we've done, the impact for people is actually all the founders themselves. And that comes across very strongly in the podcast and the videos, that if we didn't have people, and it's mainly, I know a lot of you might know this as well, it's if it's a family, it's people that have a certain personality, they see a challenge and they just can't ignore it. So they start coming up with solutions, and then they realize, as in so many people are unintentional social entrepreneurs. They sometimes will say to Michelle, I wasn't even aware. I didn't know I could put in for that funding, or, you know, I was just doing this in isolation or whatever else. And so, yeah, to answer the question, the most impactful, there's a lot of people advocating for the space. There's a lot of different stakeholders, but the ones that, to me, as in this campaign has been very intense the last couple of months. And I was feeling very, very tired doing all of the podcasts. And then just listen to stories. It's like what Aileron Paul had said. It was re-energizing, because you realize often, even look what's going on, the pandemic, what's going on in the Ukraine, when we feel we don't have control and we've got all these wicked problems that we never seem to solve, we feel, oh, homelessness, are we ever going to put past? What about the housing crisis? But actually, through social enterprises, it's people have a way that they can find, even if they're not going to found it, there's lots of other ways you can support a social enterprise. It could be by purchasing, it could be by a buddying system, it could be through mentoring, it could be through a CSR program. But it makes you feel you have got some control within your own community, or for something, a social mission that really means something to you. So I think, look, it's mainly, for me, the most impactful people are all of the people who are getting up every day. It's very, very difficult to run a successful social enterprise. And it's very, very difficult to balance the revenue side of things and to wear all of those hats, because most people come, and no matter how much training and mentoring all of us on the ground are trying, you know, not everybody can wear all of those hats. And it's very, very difficult to be an expert in sales, and then in marketing, and then in finance, and then to be actually the person going out and maybe delivering the program or the service or making the actual product. So yeah, to summarize, it's the founders themselves.
Yeah, great. Yeah, that's a lot in that. That's brilliant, Michelle. I suppose, do you feel Ireland highlights social enterprise as maybe an attractive place to work, like other European countries such as Spain and Germany and the likes?
Yeah, so I mean, I think we're doing well in a lot of the kind of the OECD reports, and a lot that the local enterprise office, when we're sharing case histories, I think we do very, very well. But from EU funding in this way, that may support us on the ground, and that at the moment, what I'm just hearing, you know, the pandemic changed so much, but then as we were trying to finish up the training and mentoring, everybody was just saying, Michelle, you're coming out and you're offering all this, you know, for revenue, a solution is tendering. We're really struggling. Do you have a tendering professional to give me? Because we'd love to do this, but it's a job, it's a specialization in itself, and a one-day training or offering a mentor, maybe they will, but then I don't have the staff here. It's just going to be me. I'm coming out of a pandemic. And then secondly, from the recruitment, what we've been feeling on the ground. So we know a lot of projects in Esra Outdoor, if they had community employment or TUS or even CSP, it was very difficult to keep going. Most did, and they did everything they could, but that's caused a lot of fatigue because they felt they were in firefighting. And now people are saying, so what, the last couple of months, all I'm hearing is we need to secure core salaries for the founders, or even for whoever, that for the first 2 or 3 years. And so I think we're not doing a great job of attracting, as in the problem is we can't compete with the private sector. And so it's a lot to do with the salaries, because I think what I'm hearing on the ground from whether they're social enterprises that came out of community or they're along the continuum or social entrepreneurs, it's mainly the financial security for themselves is what they're really struggling. And so they're saying, look, we know we can make this work. We're not trying to be a full charity. We have a charity status. We're trying to get the funding model correct. But a huge percentage, I think, in Ireland, as opposed to maybe you'd mentioned Spain and Germany, we have a lot of the WISE, which is the work integration social enterprises. And I think because there isn't as well the expertise on the social return on investment to capture that data, that so many of the social enterprises, like we're looking at rule of thumb as in how many people do you need that like maybe have that experience to work with people that may require other various levels of support. And so it's much harder if part of your social mission is also creating the employment and working with people that need those additional supports. You're never going to be as profitable at the start. It doesn't mean you won't be further on, but it's the crucial first 3 years. And I think, you know, the funding has all been very fragmented. We don't get enough visibility. Often last minute, we're going out and trying to share the information and saying, oh, jump on, we'll talk to you about this. And it's very fragmented. It's very chaotic. And I think it all, you know, and I get a lot of that's the pandemic, but we'd really love to see longer term multi-annual funding and much more visibility of what's coming next so we can plan across the nation.
Yeah. And how can we attract the best then? So to work in a creative positive impact, I suppose, in the social enterprise space.
Yeah, so look, unfortunately, it's coming back to so salaries is a big problem. And I know, look, we're really pushing for the CSP program to be reopened. And I believe, you know, there will be a social enterprise strand. It's when and how flexible that will be and how we can reduce the amount of bureaucracy. Because a number of social enterprises that we're supporting that are doing very well, they've managed to get the CSP, but they've also managed to win the years and making profit to start to be able to add to those salaries so that they could, if it's particular expertise and they're trying to take people in from the corporate sector and trying to attract people, because otherwise people might say, well, I'll just do something pro bono, I'll join a board, but I'm not going to give up my income for this. And so I think it's going to have to be a professionalization overall, but we somehow need to look at securing actual salaries. And then the second bit is, like, I've been looking, so a lot, I've spoken to a couple of social enterprises in the last couple of months that they did manage to hire people in that had fantastic commercial experience. And the problem was, as much as that person, some of them came in and shadowed, and we supported some, they went through numerous interviews where we had highlighted to say, look, this role you will be supporting people, and some have come back and it hasn't worked out. And because they just said, look, I actually didn't, I thought having the best, if I was very empathetic, but it's a skill in itself. I would need to be a psychologist, or I need to be, you know, an expert in probation and justice, or, you know, whatever the other, and no matter what kind of wraparound support. So sometimes it just didn't work. And I guess that's going to be, as a sector, how we all come together to support that. But I also think it is a lot about, you know, so the people that are succeeding, it's really getting the values, the experience, the understanding at the start. And then, like, what I'd written some notes was that, you know, we've tried to be very ingenious and creative of who we're trying to attract in. And there's a lot of, you know, cross-fertilization in different sectors. So I know the ones that are probably most successful is people that maybe worked in some of the large tech companies or some of the big companies that had CSR programs. And so they'd already kind of been outside of the sector and then crossed over because they understood it. And I think, you know, we're going to see more of that, and that would kind of replicate international models that we're seeing where people are a bit more exposed. And I think it's very early days. And I know people will say, look, from the credit unions, as in from co-ops and different forms, but as social enterprise, as how we're defining it now, I think it's very early days, and maybe, you know, we're expecting a lot. So I had looked over and I said, look, the other thing is, it's the learning and development a lot that people feel, will I have those supports? And we've also been going back and saying, look, you know, constantly we'd be asked for, Michelle, can somebody come and sit in? Can you find someone on a board or a mentor from HR, from legal, from finance? And what we've been saying is, yes, we can try. We look into all the options, that whether it's paid mentors or pro bono or some in the community. But what I can't understand, and it's often to do with staffing, is that we're not linking well enough with the likes of maybe the professional organizations, from if somebody could be an accountants and technician. So can we support them through, even if it's matching somebody as a pro bono that would support someone for 2 years while they're becoming an accountancy technician within the social enterprise, so that it's not constantly that the social enterprise feels we don't have these skills, because, you know, we've looked at models. I know there's one called, it's in Sweden, Basta and Vägen Ut. And they're really, really strong in building the skills within those social enterprises. And often what will happen is they build up the skills and people will stay within social enterprise sector. So even if they move from a social enterprise, and I think that's it. So it's going to be how we attract in certain talent, how we upskill, and then how we also look at informal learning and development, which, look, events like this, people are sharing knowledge. It is happening, and it's probably not, you know, we're not calling this an official learning, but it is sharing. There's a lot more conversations with social enterprises, even amongst themselves. And that's where, as I said, through the Get Social Dublin, even having people back in the room for the videos, for the podcasts, all the little side conversations where people go, oh, actually, no, I went here, I did this, I did that. So that's all wonderful. And I guess it's trying in a very busy day. And this is where this is perfect. It's a lunchtime and people can listen in. So I think it's a lot of that, but I still think it needs a structure. And I think it's going to need a lot of, you know, nationally, we need to come and say, it's a multi-sector approach we're going to need, and a multi-departmental approach from the upskilling side.
Yeah, I suppose just the last question that I'd have for you, just an individual one, would be, I suppose, like, do you feel that effective government policy has the greatest potential to grow the social enterprise sector, and how you see this benefiting workers in social enterprise?
So I think it's both. I mean, I think I'd really, like, if one thing was the takeaway from this is that the census is happening and the new strategy is happening, and we really need the voices heard now of social enterprises, not anybody else coming and saying, oh, this is what should happen, or this is what, you know, because in other countries often it wouldn't necessarily be the government that's coming with the policy. It's that it would have been much more informed, and we've seen all those models. We know how that works. It's that often they're social entrepreneurs, they're so exhausted, and now coming out of the pandemic, just dealing with the day-to-day, it's very hard to then put on their, how do I sit and influence policy hat? How do I say or do something now that will impact me in 3 years, so I know I'll have a more secure future? And so I guess the census is going to be a big part, and feeding into the strategy. And the only way is by as much networking as possible to get your voices heard and hear what else is going on. So I think policy is crucial. And I know there's a lot of, say, for example, at the moment about procurement. So we're hearing a lot of different conversations because we're really trying to support the social enterprises, as I said, from tendering under the 25,000 and over. But a lot of times it's a complete specialization in itself. On the other hand, I understand from the government side, I get it, that if it's made mandatory, we've seen all the regeneration social clauses. And at the moment, we do get offers for sometimes for social enterprises. And I go out and I try to get enough social enterprise for the value of that contract. And it's not possible. So I think it's too, so we need a more flexible model. And look, we have from international practice, we know all of this, that it might be, it's a 3-year as we build up to a certain percentage. So it might be, well, start, how can we get smaller contracts so we can build, or how do we match social enterprises with traditional enterprises that would usually be used to e-tendering or tendering, so they can build up those skills and just feel, well, I'm not over ambitious in this, and I'll have somebody to hold my hand over the next 3 years while we go through this contract or whatever else. Yeah. And so I think policy, absolutely, but I don't think it's alone. Like I'd put down that I think, a lot of this promotion of social enterprises, that people don't understand the amount of inclusive growth that happens in the community due to a social enterprise. They don't get the social cohesion. Often a social enterprise, we've brought people together that we tried a number of other interventions and we couldn't get them to come together and work together. But under a social enterprise, it worked extremely well. And then the social capital that you can see from, say, the launch of Frontline Make Change Bikes had a new launch for the National Transport Authority funding they got, and they had some of the lads on the panel, and they're talking about, when you hear them say as lone parents, the day-to-day of the difference of them, and the same from like Eco Mattresses and Bounce Back, when they say the difference in their lives it makes. That's where we know policy will work, but we also need in our communities that we are upskilling and capturing. If it was made easier, say for everybody here, for the social return on investment, that often social enterprise will say to me, oh yeah, and then that, and they're not even thinking, because they're thinking, oh, I'm just working on this social mission and I'm doing that. But actually they've done another 100 things that maybe nobody is realizing that's all happening in their community due to their connections and due to the social enterprise. And then I just had 4 points that, like, overall, because I'd sit in a lot of like international webinars on social enterprise, right. What they're saying is, so like, we're getting it right with the Arise campaign, as in promoting social enterprises. I know it's been very busy because everybody got the funding within the same timeline. So maybe, we've lots to say about that, but at least as a pilot, it's worked extremely well. The feedback has been phenomenal. So a promotional and awareness campaign is definitely working. And then what we need to relook at from the policy side, if you're talking about, it's the legal, the regulatory, and the fiscal. That's not working for a lot of social enterprises on the ground. There's the sustainable finance, that I know we have a lot of different finance that social enterprises would say to us, we see them as loans. We need it needs to be a more flexible model. Other social enterprises have come back and said, well, if I take that loan, it's a mortgage on my own house, or it's something that's going to jeopardize. Nobody's going to want to do that, because from the definition of a social enterprise, if it fails or if they want to leave, well, then it's on their mortgage or on their own personal liquidity. So we need to look at that. And Ireland is definitely behind on that. And then there's the business development, which we are trying with. I know that as in all the training and mentoring that everybody's doing on the ground, that is, but we probably need, there's a lot more that needs to be done. And then the other thing to bring back to the tendering, the last point, would be the access to markets. That social enterprises realise, what else is the potential within Ireland. If we read about traditional enterprises and we talk about the pandemic, the amount from e-commerce that we had available towards you, we were punching above our weight, but in social enterprises, we weren't. So we have to look at that gap.
Brilliant. Thanks, Michelle. A lot of information for us to delve into there. So if anybody has any questions for Michelle, please place them in the Zoom chat now, or you can tweet us again on the hashtag Conversations of Impact. So I'm going to come to our very own lovely Evelyn, and thanks for joining us on the panel here today, Evelyn. What attracted you, I suppose, initially to the social enterprise space?
I suppose I happened upon it by accident as a parent. Back in 2009, my eldest child was diagnosed with attention deficit disorder. It's a neurological disorder that was spotted in school, actually, being our eldest. We had nothing to compare in terms of her developmental piece of it. So ADD Midwest was a local support group for parents to come and meet and, I suppose, air the challenges and struggles. And then the other piece, as with people, when you come to share what works, what doesn't work, it was a community of grandparents and parents, actually. So they were a charity that I seeked out to get help as a parent. And then I just felt so much support from them as a group. They were doing so much in so many different areas that I wanted to give back. So I was with them for about 10 years, 5 of those years as a parent. And then I went on their board and went networking on their behalf and started becoming more involved in the development of the model to see could we become sustainable financially, I suppose. And that leads me on to my involvement with social enterprise. We did the first BNest incubator program at the time, and we did actually Limerick Gateway to Education and Sualella and PALS, maybe about 8 or 9 other groups there. So that was my first exposure as such to social enterprise. And then fast forward to December 2020, there was an opportunity to join the Social Impact Ireland team. And I suppose I'd say from these years I've been connected with BNest, as it were, at the time, Social Impact Ireland now. They never cut the strings when we finished the program. They always kept that connection. So they ran events a few times a year and they always reached out. And to me, that's one of the pieces that I do like community. I run a small enterprise myself, my own piece, trying to help small business owners. So it is nice to feel that you're within a network of people where you're constantly getting support and you're constantly meeting new people as well. So that's my introduction in a nutshell. Yeah.
I suppose how would you like to see the space progress, I suppose, from here, and the recommendations that you'd make in relation to any changes that could be made?
Well, I think first of all, Michaela, we've come a long way in a very short time. When I bring my headspace back to 2015, my impression of what social enterprise at the time and how it is now. But I would like to see more funding and resources made available to those starting enterprises. And we do need to keep the momentum going on expanding the sector with equal job opportunities for all. It's important to keep investing in training. And I do believe personal development is key. No matter what stage we are, social enterprise, whether it was us at parent stage going into a new enterprise and up along, we do need to keep that personal development piece going because that allows us, I suppose, improve our capacity to take on all those challenges that you do in the social enterprise space. And I also think collaboration with like-minded enterprises with similar values to ours is really important. It's great and encouraging to see how many more events are now online. And it's great to see the support by local, say, universities and higher profile stakeholders like politicians and corporates, that they are coming to these events, they're making their face known, and if they can be of help, it's great to see that. Yeah,
great, Evan, thanks for that. I suppose we all know as a team that you've great networking skills, and I know Michelle actually mentioned it as well there previously. So would you see this as an important skill within the social enterprise space?
Yeah, it is, Michaela, and the good news to the most shyest people, and it's probably not the best English to say, I speak as a parent of now a 21-year-old child with ADD. The social piece of networking doesn't come easy to everybody. And I do think it's very important, and it broadens, I suppose, connections that we can make. It is so valuable, and whether it was here online on events like today or during COVID, it's important that we bring those connections onto the platforms, whether it's closer here with us or over LinkedIn or Twitter, to keep those connections going. So while, you know, I'm hearing what Michelle is saying today, a couple of notes struck a chord with me, and she's somebody that I'm interested in hearing more about in the future. There's simple ways of keeping connection, and we don't need to be massively profound all the time, whether it is online networking or face-to-face, but it's just feeling comfortable to connect with like-minded individuals who carry the same values as ourselves. Yes.
Yeah, lovely. I suppose that the skills can always be taught, but values are, and that came into our conversation with Paul as well. The values are something the person must have to start with. What skills and values would you say are important within the social enterprise space?
Well, I suppose the most basic ones, listening, you know, paying attention to detail, and then the emotional ones, which in the social enterprise space, I would say it's the one thing that I've embraced most is our ability as individuals to care, our sense of purpose, really important, being part of community, that alone, wanting to hear what somebody else has to say, that, you know, opens up the opportunity for people to talk more if you give them the opportunity to do so. But I think the desire to collaborate is also quite good. So while you might have two different enterprise owners with different sets of skills, I do believe there's a way forward where enterprises can collaborate or join the resources for, whether it is for an admin kit or for someone to do a little bit of social media for them. I think there is massive potential there and loads to be excited about, but it's just having the bandwidth and just being patient enough with yourself to know, right, we'll work one piece at a time. Yeah.
Great. So if anybody has any questions for Evelyn, just pop them into the chat. And again, feel free to tweet us. So hope you're all enjoying the lunchtime event so far, and that you've had a chance to have your cuppa and sambo at this stage. I might just ask a few collective questions, I suppose, to the panel. So if Paul, Jamie, Michelle, or Evan, just feel free to pop in and answer if you feel it's an appropriate area for yourself, or if you wish to answer. Is there, and again, this came up, Michelle, you actually mentioned in relation to certain personalities and things like that in the sector, but is there a specific type of person attracted to the social enterprise space, does anyone think?
I believe so. I'll just do 2 or 3 words here that I wrote down on the notes to make it quite short. I think passion, resourcefulness, creativity, and heaps of heart. For me, they're the pieces that I see of the enterprises coming through our online doors at the moment, and the care to leave a valuable mark behind. Yeah.
Yeah. And would people on the panel, would they think that social enterprises are a better place to work than conventional jobs, or would there be a difference there for people coming from both sides of it?
Well, yeah, I'd say, like, kind of what I talked about before. Personally, I enjoy the work. I feel more invested in it, but
yeah,
you know, it can be tricky too. Like Michelle talked about salaries and things like that. You know, sometimes a bit of an offset there. Like, you know, you're like, maybe you could go for a job that you may not necessarily be invested in, that might make you personally more secure, but something else drags you back. You know, and like, it's that passion, as Evelyn said. You know, that for whatever social enterprise you're involved in. You know, but yeah. It would be nice, like, people still got to eat and pay the bills as well. So, you know, it's important to kind of try get the sector to a place where people can work. You know, like people do, I think, believe a lot of people do want to work in this kind of stuff, you know, honestly, but it may seem daunting or kind of a risk to go for it, you know, and they'll, you know, and I probably skilled people are being put off, you know, because they may not have the, they feel it's too much of a risk from perhaps, you know.
Yeah. And then, and again, this has kind of been touched on already, but how can we make the social enterprise sector, I suppose, be seen as a more attractive place to work in? We spoke about salaries and that type of area, but is there anything else that anybody else in the panel sees as an area that could make it more attractive?
I think we need to be a little bit more visible, because maybe the words are thrown around a lot, and I mean this from an outside perspective now. If you don't know what a social enterprise is, so it might mean having posts a little bit more storytelling online in a way that informs as well as brings people in. I think would be very valuable.
Yeah, thanks.
If it helps, it had come up in as part of all of the work we're doing for the Arise, is that when we realized, so there's a couple of people that have come in and went and left, but other people that stayed, we were saying, okay, what is it? Because the other thing that I'm aware, like internationally, we're not, you know, you read all these, millennials and grads, we're not seeing that. We used to see it with that soup that went in for the €5 and you say your idea, that was getting very much a lot of college students. But then I think they saw the salaries and the very low level and thought, oh no, I'll just, you know, I'll do something. Or often they'll come in and say, I want to set one up myself. And sometimes I'm saying, look, there's already 10 social enterprises doing this. Please don't give your time or work in it. You can't, everybody can't be a CEO of a social enterprise. There isn't, Ireland as a nation isn't big enough. We can't, it's not about launching more and more, because, you know, even part of the social missions grouping is because we're getting from a lot of bigger stakeholders come back and saying, I can't have 20 social enterprises approaching me for what we see. They see themselves as different because of different parts of the journey. So I think it is exactly what's been said. It's about the awareness, as in from where I think we're failing, if we compare ourselves internationally, is that we're not highlighting enough that working in social enterprise, how flexible it is, how agile, the flatter structure, and a lot less constraints. So if you have already a very entrepreneurial flair, which is what we see with a lot of, like we're doing a lot of pilot projects with the Department of Justice and Siobhan Cafferty, and we're trying to look at, because we're saying, look, we're aware that a lot of people can be very entrepreneurial and sometimes they're maybe used not for something that's of benefit to the community. So how do we flip that on side and apply those entrepreneurial flares to something that's going to bring somebody back into their community in a much more positive light? And I think, look, we're trialing it, but it's very small in the Arise. We tried to capture from people that we had managed to attract into social enterprises what they felt, you know, what's making them stay in the job. And even with all the other difficulties, or even with salaries not being the most attractive, what was it? And then we also looking at from community deployment, from people that realized that before might have said, oh, I'm only going to get a payment and I know I wouldn't be interested. And then when they actually started in the social enterprise and realized the impact in a number of levels in their community. So I guess it's sharing those stories that if people, you know, I'm really hoping the Arise is the start of this, that as people realize, oh my God, because people they'll say I work in whatever, but they're not going to go, I work in, you know, let's say again, like Frontline, Make Change Bikes, it's a social enterprise. But if you open that conversation, and that's where, look, a lot of our call to actions, we're saying, please, we know we're putting it, but everybody in the sector at least needs to be, even if you feel like people aren't interested, they are. People are looking for bits of hope and bits of, hope that there is change, and the social enterprise is that perfect vehicle. So I think it is it's going to be promoting the awareness and sharing the stories.
Yeah, great, Michelle. Nancy, sorry, I actually see your hand up. Did you have a question for somebody?
Sorry, and apologies, I've been away for most of the session. I had a call come in that I had to take. I guess I just wanted to, am I allowed to just add a comment?
Do, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I'm lucky enough, I work at the Entrepreneurs Academy, and I've worked with Julie and Michelle and loads of people in this room in supporting social enterprises. And apologies if you can hear my dog, sorry. The joy of working from home. So what I was just going to comment is that Michelle and I specifically have also talked a lot about collaboration with non-social enterprises. So from a recruitment and a networking perspective, I think there's lots of opportunities there to connect with non-social enterprises, as well as obviously social enterprises, around recruitment and making, you know, your opportunities available, because other people may know just the right person to support you. So I think networking is a key piece that we continue to do now that COVID is sort of moving on. Maybe we can get back out and do a bit more of that. The other thing I mentioned, and I mentioned this with Michaela, with you a couple of weeks ago, I think on a course, is around interns. We at the Entrepreneurs Academy and my own social enterprise that I've organized, I've used interns extensively for free. And I mean, some of them give everything from up to 30 hours a week to, you know, 5 hours a week, but it's still a huge help. And you get high, you know, these are people in third level institutions doing, you know, high level work and being educated in digital marketing or whatever it is. So tapping into those resources. And my last comment, sorry, is, you know, not only the partnerships, but the local enterprise offices run these fabulous Start Your Own Business courses. And, you know, we provide a lot of those courses for the local enterprise office. And what I can tell you is 3 out of 10 sessions are on legal, HR, you know, all of those bits. So those programs are usually available for free. And, you know, if you know someone who's in startup phase or even, you know, just beyond that, these courses are fantastic for them to get those nuts and bolts from experts, you know, accountants, HR professionals to support them. So sorry, that's my notes.
No, that's great, Nancy. Good to hear that. I suppose just if there's anything else that the panelists, our 4 panelists here today, feel that hasn't come up as yet. We have covered quite a bit, but if there's anything that they feel important that hasn't been spoken about that they want to share today.
If I may, from an internal point of view, give an online plug to our closer community network. That is something that will make the networking and sharing of events and services so much easier. So if it's okay to put a shameless plug in there. And then the other one on the personal development piece, one of our own connections, Fiona Callan, will be featuring for the next 7 or 8 weeks, offering snippets of information on a Friday at 10 o'clock. If anyone happens to be tuning in around then, it's free and it's great to be engaged in that kind of learning.
Great, thanks, Evelyn. I suppose for everybody listening, I suppose on hearing the speakers here today, do you feel working for a social enterprise is a great way to invigorate your career, maybe to make that effective, positive change in the world? Again, you can let us know in the chat. But people, I suppose, now want more than the standard job, more than ever. I suppose candidates are looking to make that impact in their roles and to make the positive difference in the world. And it's purpose that attracts a lot of people to their roles, where team members are an integral part of the operations in the social enterprise space. So I want to thank all our 4 impactful speakers here today for an informative and open conversation. And I suppose now being a lunchtime event, I'm just conscious of the time slipping by us. So we're going to move in onto the question and answer session for anything that has come in to us online. And I'm just going to check if there's anything there now. Yeah, so this one is for Paul. When working on adult education project with Gateway to Limerick, what skills development are introduced?
Yeah, so that is a part of what we do. Kind of ongoing, has been for the last few years, is our adult education project called the Go Do It project. So it's people from any kind of background. It could be someone with maybe a disability, someone who's been out of work a long time, who's had an injury, trying to get back into work, or just even a transition year student trying to just figure out maybe what they want to do work-wise, you know. So yeah, we take it in on a case by case, like one-to-one basis, very much geared towards what the person wants, you know, and we take that approach with them in a low pressure. What are you interested in? It's all about having those conversations. And yeah, a lot of skills that are developed. The big one we see is like social skills, confidence. A lot of people come in are actually like looking to work on that. Very simply, like, can I help out in your charity shop? I find I get quite anxious socially. Simple as that. They just want to practice interacting with people, you know, and that's great practice. There's a lot of people coming in and out all the time, you know, so that's a big one. You know, we will do a lot of things as well. Like it's varied. Like we get people doing admin tasks a lot of the time, you know. God knows we have enough admin tasks for days, like, so it's great to get the help, you know. That never ends. You know, and like retail merchandising, we you know, people pricing, selling stuff online, different things like that. But from the like kind of personal skills, I think the big one is the confidence, the social stuff, you know. And we put a lot of emphasis on that, you know. We encourage, you know, it's a low pressure environment. Like there's work to be done, but we do spend a lot of time having to chat, and that we encourage that. That is a big part of work as well, isn't it? For people, the connections you make and the friendships and things like that. And someone who maybe hasn't the chance to get into the workplace, isn't doing much, it's a great stepping stone, you know, we feel. I hope that's answered your question.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks, Paul. So questions come in for Jamie here. What do you most enjoy about your job?
In the ability board or
in the ability, well, either. You can put in the ability board.
Ability board, they're doing the training for the companies because it gives them awareness on like how to make it equality. Like I enjoy to do the awareness training.
Yeah. And what about then? Do you want to mention the second job as well?
For McDonald's, I'm probably sit out in the lobby with the kids because seeing the kids happy when you get them the crown and toy. It's very good to interact with the kids.
Yeah, you find that the best part of it.
Yeah,
that's cool. Michelle, this one's coming for you here. I suppose attracting not only high quality talent, but the right kind of talent is major difficulty, and how can we work around this? I suppose you've already kind of touched on some of that already, but is there anything that you'd like to add to it?
I think so often social enterprises, it's a very urgent requirement, and because they're so resource strapped, they want immediate starts. And so sometimes when we're supporting in the recruitment process, you know, we're saying, no, it can't, it's much, I know you just want a person to start, but it's really important to get the right person. So it is that we're seeing, as in internationally, what I've seen work best is this kind of shadowing, and it's not common in Ireland, as in from setting up someone to get paid, because it's some people are like, well, I'm not going to bring someone in on a trial basis for a role and not pay. But we're working, as I said, with Department of Information on this as well, on different trials. As one, a lot of social enterprises as well, a lot of time it's how the job description, because all the benefits of working in a social enterprise are also some of the kind of negatives when you're trying to attract somebody, because it really is saying it can be anything. Or really, you know, you'll need X, Y, and Z as your experience. But we really need you to be as flexible, because, you know, a lot of times on the day something goes wrong, and it's, you know, you might think you're coming in to do something very high level strategic wise, and it's very operational, and it's somebody, and that's where, look, it's often what we're finding more and more in social enterprises. It is people who are skilled, but definitely would score very high in an entrepreneurial level, that can react to that, because often there isn't a plan. The plan is you need to be able to go, plan A is gone, plan B, but plan C, you're just going to have to make this happen. And so it's people that probably do well in high risk environments. And I suppose it's really about setting all those expectations, because look, we get a lot of people coming in with offers or saying, oh, Michelle, I'd love to, you know, I'm like, I know, if I know them, sometimes I'm like, no, I know on paper you look perfect. You're not going to be the right fit, because I know after 5, they're not going to answer their phone. I know that, you know, or that they, you know, they'll say, I really like my Excel spreadsheet and my plan. I'm like, that's, you know, often it's great to have the Excel spreadsheet. It's just not the practicality of what we're seeing on the ground with social enterprises. So I think it's about really setting that expectation, as in what the role is, but how often that role is going to evolve at an extremely fast pace. And the social enterprise themselves trying to have, whether it's their board or their supporters or mentors, to have people that can, like we're trialing something else at the moment where we've a number of social enterprises that we're struggling with people who've come in at more entry level, and they're ready, and the social enterprise feels like they need to go, and they want to, but they're confident. So it's more of a like personal development, but it's not really that. So we have somebody sitting down and trying to map this for us, because we're not really sure. So we're saying, look, actually go out, sit with each person, and is there something we can do? Because financially, it's not sustainable for us to do that on a one-to-one, but we need to see how we can support social enterprises across the country to do that kind of level support. Because often, as I said, attracted into social enterprises are people that maybe they wouldn't have been the most confident, but they really are, you know, a very genuine, authentic person, but they need that extra time to develop those skills and confidence. I hope that helps. I'm not sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Marie, I see your hand up there. Did you have a question for somebody?
A couple of comments, if you don't mind, if that's all right. And I must apologize. I had to slip out to take a phone call that I've been waiting for. So unfortunately, it came at the wrong time. So if I'm repeating anything that has been said while I was away on the phone, I do apologize. First and foremost, I just have to say, I wish I could bottle Michelle and keep her on the shelf and use her every time. The energy coming from her is just quite incredible, along with all of the knowledge. I want to thank all of the speakers, because they've been really, really informative in what they've brought to us today. And I suppose from my perspective, I think one of the things and I've been a long time in this game now, like at my age, I've gone through, I'm over 30 years working in the non-for-profit charity, social enterprise, entrepreneurship area. And I think sometimes we get lost in when we see gaps and we go looking for supports to help the different people that we're working with and trying to help. We don't always take the time to get everybody together to make suggestions around what the programs should look like. And a prime example of that was a number of years ago when FOSS, as it was at the time, decided to hijack the social economy, you know, and everybody then for years after that lost sight of what a true social economy was. So I suppose in light with some of the things that Michelle has said, I would like to add just that be careful what we're asking for if we don't have control over what it's going to look like when we actually get it, because sometimes we'll get handed something that is the absolute opposite for what we were looking for. So I think if we look at some of the comments that have been made around networking, hugely important, but not just amongst ourselves or with the people that we're working with the powers that be that make the decisions, and to make sure that we're getting them to come to the table. And if that means that we have to do little group works, you know, organize little seminars or mini conferences or something to get them at the table, then that's what we need to do. And the other thing just to say is, and I was very interested to hear the comment about interns. Interns can be absolutely a fantastic resource, but we have to be mindful that they're people too. So if we're taking in interns, and I've seen some horror stories around interns, we need to make sure, A, that we have really meaningful work that allows them to progress, as well as the organizations we're trying to help to progress, and to have some mechanism that makes them feel worthy and meaningful while they're doing the internship with us, and not do like some of the government programs have done in the past, take advantage of people. So they're the couple of comments that I just wanted to make. And again, just to say thank you so much to the speakers. It's been a really interesting lunchtime. Thank you.
Great, thanks Marie. Thanks for that addition. Just that we're kind of coming close to the end now, and that's our questions, I suppose, raised for today. So do feel free to contact us at Social Impact Ireland, and we'd be happy to help you with any of your social enterprise queries. We provide 6-month incubator programs, short courses, one-to-one business advice clinics, coffee mornings, and lots more. So do get in contact with us. As Evelyn already mentioned, we have our online platform called Closer, and that was built specifically for the social enterprise space. So you can join that through our website, socialimpactireland.ie website, and join other like-minded social entrepreneurs and businesses. So as mentioned, I suppose at the beginning, this is part 4 in a 6-part series, and please do join us again next time, which our topic will be on sustainability. especially the sustainability of our energy levels and self-care, which are ever more important now, and the sustainability of funding and education. So thank you all so much for joining us here today, and we hope that you'll be able to join us again next time. Take care, and thank you very much for joining us for lunch.